Okay, welcome back to part 3 of the Chertsey Radio Club build-a-thon. Today we're going to be looking at the Kia kit, which connects to the main board, and basically what we have is we have a selection of bits over here. Same principle as before, set of resistors, set of capacitors, two different types. This time we've got some multi-layer capacitors, very similar in design to the ceramics. Again, they don't have a polarity to be concerned with. We've got a voltage regulator and a transistor, a selection of pins, and of course the little IC socket. Now, one of the things about this board is there are a lot more components marked on it than are actually fitted. If you have a look here, you'll see there's about 6 different resistors shown. There are only 2 that we actually have to fit. The rest of them are simply left because they're not used on this project. So what we'll do is we'll make a start, and we'll do what we did before. We'll start with the resistors, and then we'll work our way through the capacitors, and we'll have a look at the pins and the other connectors towards the end. Okay, this is our first resistor here. It's 4.7 kilo ohms. These are smaller than the ones we've been using so far. And you will need a magnifying glass to identify the colour bands if your eyesight is anything like mine. They are quite tiny. Now, there's only 2 to fit, and the first one, R1, goes in horizontally flush with the board up in the top corner. There, like that. I'll try and keep him central this time, like last time, where it wandered off. Right, pop this onto the that needs a clean. Can't abide a dirty soldering iron. There we go. Now, our second one, R2, has to be mounted vertically, very much like what we did on the previous kit. So we can just bend one of the legs over, like so, and then pop him into position. This iron's a little bit hot. I'm going to turn it down a fraction. You can always tell if the iron's too hot because the flux burns off too quickly. Well, that's the 2 resistors. That's the nice easy bit. Stayed reasonably vertical. Yeah, okay, good. Right, let's have a look at the capacitor set now. First thing we want, C1, is 100 nanofarads. That's marked as a 104. Now, let's see what we've got here amongst our set. That's a 102. It's a 102, so these will all be 102s. Yeah, so it'll be out of this little lot here somewhere. Now, these multi-layer capacitors, they have numbers on them, but they are quite difficult to read. They are very small, and they don't stand out terribly well either. This will be a good test of your eyesight, these. I think it's a 104. I'll double check it against the other one, which looks... yeah. Okay, now then, let's see where he goes. C1, 100 nanofarads, yeah, 104. I'm just double checking because I don't want to put it in the wrong place. C1, is No polarity on these to worry about, which is quite nice. That's better. Taken nicely. C2, 1 nanofarad, that's a 102. That's one of the little ceramic jobbies here. C2, right, let's find a slot for that. It's over here. You'll notice sometimes these little ceramic discs sweat slightly when you heat them up. Don't worry about it, just let them cool down and they'll be fine. Right, C3, another 109 nanofarad. So it's same again, a 102. These ones are right, these ones read okay. But, always pays to double check, it's so easy to put the wrong one in. Could have made a neater job of that one, Bob. Okay, okay. Right, C4. What have we got? Down our list. I should be crossing these off as I go, but 470. So that's a 474. 74. It's one of these little fellas, I think. Yeah. 474. Alright. That's C4. These little multi-layer capacitors are quite nice actually, because the legs have already been set at the correct width to fit them in the board. Which makes life a little bit easier. C4 in position. C5. Closer look at that. 10 nanofarad. That's 103. Yes. 103. Right, so what we've got left. It's 102. That's a 103. C5. Yep. Goes in the middle of there. C6, 1 nanofarad or 102. That's the last one of them. C6 is directly below C3. Slot him in there, like so. C6. We've got the C7, which should be our last one of these. 104, 100 nanofarad. Yeah. C7. Yeah. This one wants to fall out. Okay, that's our capacitor set done. Next thing we want to look at is our transistor. We've got a BS170, which looks very, very similar to the voltage regulator. So if we can make sure we get the right one. Yeah, BS170. That's what we want, and that goes in position Q1. Now, it does give you the orientation here on the board with the flat side pointing towards the top. Good thing about this is it's arranged in such a way so we don't need to bend the central leg back like we did on the last set on the Kia circuit. This will just slot straight in. But make sure you keep the flat side lined up with the flat side printed on the board. That way we can't have any polarity related mistakes. Quite a challenge, that one, because the 3 pins are pretty close together. There we go. Yeah, they're all taken. Okay. Right, the next one is the voltage regulator. Looks identical, but certainly isn't. 78105. Well, I'm going to have to take that for granted because that's too small even to read with the magnifier. But it's the only other one in the kit, so we'll put faith in the fact that it's the right component. And that goes in to slot VR1, which is in the centre here. Again, they've got the orientation on for us, but we will need to move the centre pin back a little just to get them to line up. Again, make sure you insert it with the flat side of your regulator facing the flat side of the board. And with a little bit of jiggering same as in the last kit, they won't go completely flush. Don't try and force them all the way down, just let them sit sort of 4 or 5 mil proud of the board, that'll be fine. If you haven't got a soldering iron with a very fine needle tip, this is one of the boards where you will come unstuck quite quickly, because everything on here is quite tight. Yeah. One day I will treat myself to a decent pair of side cutters. Okay. Voltage regulator in. Looking quite good. Alright, the next thing that's got to go in is the socket for the IC. I've got that right. Yes. 8-pin socket. Now again, the orientation for this is marked on the board. Have a little notch out the end of the socket, just like we did on the audio amplifier on the first stage, and it shows you which way around to position it. In this case, the notch wants to be facing towards capacitor C1, and we'll just pop him in there like that. And again, I'll just bend a couple of the pins over, just to stop it doing a runner when we turn it over and solder it. Okay. You have to have a little pause after this because the iron is about to run out of gas. That will definitely bring an end to proceedings. That's good. It's time to refuel the iron. Okay, the last few bits we can put in before we can test this are our little connectors. Now, what I suggest you do is refer to the assembly sheet for this, because there's a nice photograph on there. Shows you exactly which way around to orientate them. Keeps it nice and simple. We'll do the long one first. That goes in there, like so, with the plastic piece pointing away from you if you're holding the board this way around. Now what I'll do is find my little clip, just try and hold that in position whilst we get a couple of the pins soldered, and then we can take it off. Good. That's our first one in. That's gone in quite nicely. Okay, let's have a look, see what we're going to do next. We've got two 2-pins and the 3-pin. Now we'll do the 3-pin first. It's over here on the left hand side. Again, orientated with the plastic piece facing in towards the centre of the board, like so. Okay, last 3 little connectors to go in now. Again, the little diagram on the instruction book gives you the orientation, which is quite handy. And this one goes in that way with the plastic piece pointing down. Just see if we can get him sorted out. One down. The next one goes on the other side with the plastic clip facing outwards. There. Could be a bit of a challenge to hold this one in. The final one goes just below it, again with the plastic pointing towards the outside of the board. It just squeezes in nicely down the side of our capacitor there. Okay, so those 3 in, and we're ready to test the voltage on pin 1 before we insert the IC. Okay, now in order to test the little Kia board, what we're going to do is we're going to measure to see if we've got 5 volts or near to it across pin 1, which is the top left hand side one there. Now what we'll do is we'll plug in our little power supply here like so, switch it on, so that's looking positive, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have our multimeter here set on DC 20 volt range, and we're going to have the positive on the pin 1, and I'll touch the negative to the underside of the board here to see what we get, and hopefully we should have something in the region of 5 volts if everything has gone according to plan. So this is cause a little bit of delicate balancing with fingers and the like. I'll touch this on here. There we go. 4.95 volts, which is near as damn it what we want. That's good. So that essentially means that it's now safe to plug our little IC in, and that's that part done. Now when it comes to the little IC we've got here, again, make sure we get the orientation correct. So there's a little notch out of one end there, and a little spot on pin 1, and that goes with the notch pointing to the right hand side of the board like this. Now it might take a little bit of wiggling to go in. Sometimes they go in straight away, sometimes they don't. And just make sure we've got all 4 legs, or 8 legs rather, lined up before we push it down into position. Nice and gently ease it in, like so. Lovely. And that is our little Kia board complete. So we're now ready to move on to stage 4, which I believe is the crystal oscillator. Okay, so that's our little Kia board complete, and we are ready to move on to stage 4, which I believe is the crystal oscillator. So we're getting into the real radio part of things now. It will start to get interesting. So I hope everything went well for you. Things have gone well this end anyway, which I'm very pleased about, and I look forward to catching up with you on the next part. And I wish you all a very good evening.